We have to start with Leon Rocky Edwards. Leon Rocky Edwards, to me, is one of the most interesting stories that I've ever watched unfold in my years of not only watching this sport, but covering this sport as well. And I think that if you are a newer fan, I think that if you are a fan who just started watching MMA in the pandemic, you may not be able to fully appreciate just how special and how unique this story is. Leon Edwards was, at best, for a very long time, a bit player in the 170-pound division. He was someone that, would pop up here and there, mainly on fight nights, not really in high-profile pay-per-view fights, not really pushed all that much. Didn't do a great job, let's be honest, of selling himself, of promoting himself. In fact, there was a profile piece that came out last week by a very popular writer based in the UK, Donald McRae, I think his name is, about Leon Edwards. It was a great piece and worth reading even after 296, where he talked about he was so nervous in his interviews as he was coming up that he used to rehearse them with his friends and he would write things down. And trust me, we've been talking to Leon for quite some time and that didn't necessarily surprise me. He didn't give you a lot to work with. He wasn't very verbose. And there were times where I would speak to members of his team and say, like, I wish he would just push his case a little bit more. And I remember in March of 2019, because he's fighting on that card in the UK, the very famous card, which was headlined by Jorge Masvidal versus Darren Till. And there was some talk that, maybe it should have been Leon versus Darren Till. Leon was the guy that was on a roll, and here's a card in the UK, and he's got the winning streak, and Masvidal doesn't, and Till was the big fish at the time. Yet Leon was fighting Gunnar Nelson in the co-main event. And if you recall what happened, Gunnar Nelson got cheered more than Leon at the O2 in London. Gunnar Nelson got more cheers. In fact, Leon got booed at the O2 in London, his home country. He wins that fight. In the main event, what happens? Jorge Masvidal knocks out Darren Till. But that wasn't the real story of the night. In the end, the story of the night and the story that, kind of lived on for months and months later was what happened backstage during the post-show. Jorge Masvidal is being interviewed by Laura Sanko on the ESPN post-show. They had some back and forth words, Leon and Masvidal. Words were exchanged. Masvidal leaves the interview, and what happens? He hits him with the infamous 3-piece in a soda.
He asked me something about a date. And I say maybe, maybe not. And then he tells me to shut up. You're getting interviewed, and some fucking idiot comes here and cuts your interview off. Well, you should get punched or slapped upside your head,
Jorge Masvidal and Leon Edwards kind of got into a little bit of something backstage.
And what happens after that? The Masvidal star goes like this. The Leon star goes like this. Leon was so unpopular and people were so apathetic towards him that there was no campaign, there was no push, there was no argument on his behalf to exact revenge. If he was Sean O'Malley, Sean Strickland these days, Conor McGregor, Khabib, if he was someone who was supremely popular at the time, there would have been a mad rush to book that fight right away. UFC never really even explored it because everyone was like, wow, look at Masvidal, the badass, knocked him with the 3-piece in a soda, what a line, sell the t-shirts, and Leon could just go take a hike. He could just go take a hike. And that to me is where my sort of like infatuation with this guy getting what is earned and deserved for him began. Because I couldn't believe that they were not fighting to give him this opportunity. 2 people fight backstage, 2 people fight in the crowd, people fight, at media day, stuff like that. This is what Dana White said. At some point, you get locked in a cage, you figured it out. Leon wasn't even given that right. He wasn't even given that respect. Oh, you got popped backstage? Yeah, well done. You're not even fighting International Fight Week. You're gonna fight late July in San Antonio on a fight night against RDA, who's a very tough out. Masvidal goes on to fight Askren. He knocks him out in seconds. His star continues to ride. Leon is essentially a footnote that year. And that's when I did the whole thing about like, oh, he's the Tim Duncan of MMA. He doesn't get the respect. He's Mr. Fundamentals. He doesn't sell himself. But what does he do? He beats RDA. Then what happens? He's supposed to fight Tyron Woodley in the big coming out party fight a year later at the O2 in late March 2020. And what happens? He can't leave the country. It's the first event canceled by the pandemic. And I remember what happened leading up to that. You may forget now. He was being almost like pressured when the world was closing. And there was talk that if you leave the UK, you won't be allowed back in. He was being told, you better get on a plane or there's going to be repercussions. You better get on this plane. We're going to do this in a casino. We're going to do this Native American reservation. Get on this plane, make this fight happen. In the end, I remember speaking to him. I can't do it. I can't leave my kids. I can't leave my family. I'm not getting on this plane.
Then Corona hit and it's like, since that, it's been like, all the way downhill. Got matched up like 4 times.
He did not fight until a year later because of all the restrictions, because of everything that was going on. He didn't fight till March of 2021. And that's when he was told he has to fight Khamzat Chimaev. It's like, in what universe does this make sense? They wanted to get rid of him. He was a nuisance. He didn't play ball. He didn't sell himself. He didn't have a passionate following. The UK fans didn't care. Fight Khamzat.
With Khamzat, I got pulled out twice, I think 2-3 times, and it's a wild year, you know. I was like sitting on the sidelines when you're fit, healthy, young, and just can't compete, you know.
In steps Bilal Muhammad. Leon looked fantastic, and people forget that now. Leon looked fantastic in that first round. He was on point. He looked in great shape. The striking was crisp. Unfortunately, it ends in the accidental eye poke. It ends in a no contest.
Huh? Stop. The bad luck, right? The last year or so, just one after another. After the Woodley fight, I was meant to fight Woodley in London in March, and had that cancelled the week before, on the Sunday before the fight, and then from there, just bad luck.
But now he's starting to build a little bit of momentum. He's starting to feel a little more confident. Nate Diaz picks him, which was a bit of a head scratcher at the time. Tough fight, not selling himself. Diaz picks him. You remember what happened. He wins the fight, not the night. He wins 24 minutes, and then he loses the last minute, and that's the indelible image. That's Nate pointing at him, right? But fine. He has to wait a year and change before finally getting that title shot. He finally gets the Usman fight. He's feeling down. He's about to lose. He's a minute away. Dave Lavelle digging down deep, pulls it out of the fire. The head kick heard around the world. And then there's the explosion, right? And then people start getting so emotional, and they finally fall in love with him. Headshot, bang. One of the great post-fight interviews of all time. Look at me now. Look at me now. Look at me now. It's incredible.
I told you. Now look at me now. Look at me now.
And then he goes back home to the place that booed him a few years prior, and you wonder how he's going to rebound, and you wonder how he's going to respond, and you wonder how he's going to be in his first title defense against the guy who beat him in their first fight, who beat him in the majority of their second fight. Is there going to be too much pressure? Is he going to out-wrestle him? Is he going to rectify? Is he going to right the wrong Kamaru Usman? And he dominates him to the point where it was never really close. And so now Leon Edwards has truly arrived. But what happens that night when they say they never do it? It's Colby Covington next. And this is what I love so much about this story. Jorge Masvidal hit him with the 3-piece, wouldn't even look at him to give him the opportunity to right the wrong, to settle it in the cage. And I've said this to Jorge, I've always thought that he should have fought him. You hit someone backstage, you're fighters, you're cage fighters, you need to fight. Kamaru Usman was to the point where, like, he was trying to fight Canelo. He was trying to fight anyone else but Leon. I was trying to say, no, it has to be Leon. What more? Can he fight in a number one contender fight? Can he fight Gilbert Burns? Do you remember all that? I'm getting blocked. I'm getting back and forth with Gilbert Burns. Can you guys give him a shot? No, not Leon Edwards. And what did Colby call him time and again in all those interviews? Leon Scott. Wouldn't even give him the respect to call him by his real name. This was the guy they all mock. This is the guy that none of them respected. This is the guy that no one wanted to give the time of day. No one wanted to give him a chance to fight for the belt. Masvidal out of the UFC. He beats Kamaru twice, and now he gets to the Colby fight. Colby Covington, who had not fought in 2 years. Colby Covington, who had done nothing in the last 2 years to deserve this fight. But he gets the title shot. It should have been Bilal Muhammad fighting on Saturday. There's no doubt about that. He had done everything he had to do to earn that title fight, but they gave it to Colby. Colby Covington, who shows up at the press conference on Thursday dressed as George Washington. I hate the word, but this was cringe at its finest. And he's sitting up there. It's fine. It's classic. It's vintage Colby. And then he takes it to a different point. He takes it to a different spot, a different territory. And
no, I'm bringing you to 7th layer. Hell, we'll say what's up to your dad while we're there. Oh!
He cracks a quote-unquote joke or whatever you want to say. It wasn't. I don't even think it was supposed to be a joke on his part. Just saying he's going to take Leon to the depths of hell, and then maybe he could see his father who was murdered, his father who obviously had his own issues back in Jamaica. The family moves to England. Leon's a teen. He's murdered in a nightclub. And you see Leon, mild-mannered, the guy who doesn't speak up, the guy who doesn't often fight, snap and throw the bottle at Colby. And then every time they showed him there, sitting there with the sunglasses, you could just almost see the smoke coming out of his head. You could see how mad he was, how he was seething. And there was a part of me that was like, this could go one of two ways. Either Colby just made the biggest mistake of his life, or either Colby knows deep down he has no chance of beating Leon Edwards because of his skill and because of the layoff, and he's trying to break him and get under his skin, and it will work. Or Leon fights extremely emotional, loses his cool, loses his mind, and this is going to be a detriment. It was a big question, and you saw how intense they were in the face-off, and you saw the next day at the weigh-ins how intense they were. I don't think Colby said I was in character. I believe he said, you thought I was a character, thought it was a character, meaning Leon said he's just playing a character, and he's like, nah, I'm the real deal. And so I was fascinated to see what would happen in the fight. And what ended up happening was Leon, who is, once again, the Tim Duncan of MMA, he fights and plays with no emotion. And he went out there and he systematically broke down Colby Covington. And it was beautiful to watch. It was a beautiful performance. Was it one for the highlight reel? No. But what did we hear leading up to that fight? Oh, his cardio is a weapon. Oh, the wrestling. He's going to out-wrestle him. Oh, the pace. This is Leon Edwards, who went to AKA at one point because he had no wrestling. He could only strike. And now he's grappling with the grappler. He's stuffing 8 takedowns. He's reversing him. He's hardly breaking a sweat. Leon Edwards won that fight 49-46. Colby won the 5th round. I'm not one to talk about the commentary. I like all those guys. The last minute of commentary was utterly bizarre. I don't know what they were seeing, talking about how like this was sort of like a moral loss for Leon. I mean, like the fight was over. He was never in danger. He was never threatened. He was never rocked. He was never hurt. He even took chances when he probably shouldn't have taken chances on the ground. It was a systematic beatdown. Colby never showed up. He never had anything for him. Leon Scott outclassed him. God, that has to be a tough pill to swallow. God, that has to be annoying. And that's something that he's going to have to live with. And I get that he has to play it up, and I get that he has to celebrate and do all these things. But Leon won that fight fair and square and very easily. And then finally in the post-fight interview, you see the emotion come out. You see him crack up. You know, his voice crack. You see him talk about crying after the presser. And kudos to him for even admitting that. A lot of people even wouldn't admit that.
Emotional fights I had to deal with for like the comments that he made. But like I said, I got a great support system.
This is his father. He used his father as entertainment, as he said.
This fight was very emotional for me. This guy used my dad's death as entertainment. He used my dad's murder as entertainment, and it took a lot for me to calm down, stay focused, and come in this fight, you know. And after the press conference, went backstage, I was crying because just for the rage. Like, you can't use my dad's death as entertainment, and that's what he did, you know. Like, to this day, it still breaks my heart. He got murdered, and they said my dad should burn in hell. And
well, you got past that.
Can't imagine how difficult that was. And I can't imagine how good this feels. After everything this guy has been through, after no one giving him a chance, after everyone denying him, no one fighting for him, the promotion not wanting him to be in this spot, his own country at times booing him, these guys who sit at the top of the division, not giving him a chance, who's the king of the mountain now? The glow up of one Leon Edwards is one of the most beautiful things that we've ever seen covering the sport. If you cannot appreciate this, I don't know if you have a heart, if you have a soul. I mean, did you see these photos in the aftermath? Dude at the club with the cigar, the sunglasses, living his best freaking life. How could you not be happy for this guy? Doesn't say a negative thing about anyone. Even the guy who talks shit about his dad who was murdered. He even took the high road there. It's an absolute beautiful thing. And so then when you have guys like Leon Edwards rise above it all, do things the right way, take the high road, fight like that, take on all comers, and just get rid of the dudes who were standing in his way, it's a beautiful freaking thing. And so that's why you need the guys like Leon. That's why you need the guys who are going to rise above and not go there and represent this sport in the best way possible on the grandest stage. That's why this was a victory for everyone who truly loves MMA. That's why you have to hope that the Leons of the world are able to rise above and still represent this sport in the best way possible. And that's what he did on Saturday. A massive win for him. And now he gets to go into 2024 an even bigger star with a potential return to the UK. Now, I didn't like what he said in the post-fight press conference regarding Bilal in particular.
Nah, there definitely other options, you know. I don't feel like Bilal should be next. You know, I've done it before. I've won like 10 fights in a row, didn't get a title shot.
Bilal has to be next. He 1,000% deserves to be next. He has earned it. His resume speaks for itself. He should have been the guy fighting on Saturday, and if I were him, I'd be pissed. And I'd be pissed that Dana White wasn't at the press conference like he was in March, saying that Colby was next. He should be next. He should have said it at the press conference on Saturday. He weighed in, he did everything that was asked of him, and it should have been said and solidified on Saturday. And so I would hope that Leon, who had been screwed over all these years, despite not liking Bilal, would say, I'm going to do things the right way. I'm going to be the fighting champion who does things the right way. While everyone else is acting a fool, I'm going to go up there and defend the title against the people who have earned their shot. not the ones who are getting fast track, not the ones with the following, with the social media numbers, but the ones who have earned it. And I think it's like 10 unbeaten or something like that for Bilal against a very, I mean, the resume speaks for itself. You know what he did in his last fight. It's a very impressive run. Gilbert Burns, Sean Brady, Vicente Luque, Stephen Thompson, Damian Maia, no contest, Leon Edwards, Diego Lima, Lyman Good, Takashi Sato, Carlos Milner. That's a run that dates back to 2019. His last loss was to Jeff Neal. That's a supremely impressive run. How could you possibly give it to someone else? Shafkat is there. He's one fight away. That was a great win. 18 in a row, all finishes, 6-0 in the UFC, all finishes, submits Stephen Thompson. It's fantastic. He's one away. But there has to be a world where wins and losses count. It has to still matter in this sport. We can't completely go down the path of like, oh, we're just going to give it to the most popular guy. That's what screwed Leon. That's what screwed Tony. And I don't think it should screw Bilal. You got to call it like it is. He should be next. I would like to see Leon, be the guy who champions those causes as well.